makes me feel like a man.
You want every team to lose any other game? Sorry. Bailey Zappi just do another time. You know what? Wait. Time out.
Are you kidding?
That's what I'm gonna try to drop a mic.
Welcome in to the Warner Brothas Podcast. I am Keenan, joined by my brother Kyle, of course. We will game one a couple nights ago. Game two is today, tonight. Kyle, how are you feeling?
Feeling good. It's been a nice, relaxing weekend. We've had some hot weather here. It's starting to cool off a little bit, so the change is nice. It's been a hot summer so far, so yeah, I'm enjoying the cool weather. But, game Thursday was a blowout. Wasn't the game I wanted to see, but it was cool. I definitely have some thoughts. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm great. Fresh off a battle rap event last night. It was my first one catching live this year. It was Gnome 9.
That's not normal.
I know it was the first one I've caught live. I've been watching battle rap all year, but this is the first one that I caught live. There were 7 battles. One was a surprise battle. They always typically have a surprise battle on these big cards, but the main event, Rum Nitty versus Loaded Lux, lived up and exceeded expectations. It was top 3 for battles I've watched live. Up there with Easy the Block Captain versus Chess. That was on Summer Madness 12. And then on Gnome 10, the COVID one, Daylight versus Tay-Rock. But I rewatched it again this morning. It's Loaded Lux, the way he puts things together, and Rum Nitty's in the same class. It's 4, 5, 6 watches before you pick up on everything, and even then you won't. There's some things you won't pick up on how he puts it together. So phenomenal, and I'm just really glad that I got to watch it live and got to be a part of the experience with everybody else. It was exactly what I wanted, and more, honestly.
Got to keep the Google search ready by the sounds, but that's dope.
Absolutely. Listen, dope. If Rap Genius could put it together, it'd take them. Rap Genius likes to put up things quick. It'd take them a few days for sure of diligent work to get through all of the stuff that was said in that battle. So I picked up on a lot. Because it was really sit down, no words, no distractions, anything. I'm keying into 3 rounds of excellence, or 6 rounds, I should say, of excellence. But yeah, but I'm good and I'm ready for tonight because tonight is a very important game, obviously, on both fronts. If Boston goes up 2-0, do you expect them to lose 4 out of the next 5 or 4 out of the next 4? If Dallas can tie at 1-1, they steal home court for the series. What are your thoughts on game 1 first? We'll talk about that in depth before we give our predictions here for game 2 tonight.
I don't really have a ton of thoughts. That would minimize it if I said it seems like the game was won in the first quarter, but the first quarter really was where the huge scoring advantage came. Celtics were like plus 17, I believe, and then the rest of the game was not only fairly low scoring compared to the first quarter, but much closer.
It was plus 1 for the rest of the game. I think it was 107-89. So I think it was an 18-point victory. And obviously they were up 37-20 after the first quarter. So really it was like an even game for the remainder of the 3 quarters.
Yeah. And, if you pick the Celtics to win this series, or if you were the belief that they were the deeper team, they showed that. If the Celtics didn't have Porzingis, I think they would still win the series. I think it would be more of a 50-50 series. I think it would be, maybe a 7-game series, a 6-game series for sure. But with Porzingis, he's literally a cheat code. I mean, you got someone who's 7'3" out there who you can pick and pop with, or pick and roll, or post up. Could do an ISO himself if need be. The team, like I said, the team's certainly strong enough to win without him. This was the case even before the season. I know he was the first trade before Drew Holiday, but if they would have gotten Drew Holiday and never got Porzingis, they would still likely be in this position right here. And the fact,
especially with how the East transfolded this playoffs, absolutely.
Right. And
they got here without him, really, so it didn't make a difference anyway.
Right. And, even everyone at full strength, Boston's probably still in the conference finals with Holiday replacing Marcus Smart, let's say, and the way Horford's played. I mean, obviously the roster would have filled out differently, but you get my point.
No,
But
again, it's they were the lost in the first round to the Heat, or probably got into the finals. Honestly, I'm gonna stick with that. Would have probably lost in the first round to the Heat or got into the finals. So I would probably put them in the same exact position. I mean, the Bucks could have done something if Giannis is really that, or if Embiid got to that level, if everything healthy, of course. But,
sure, yeah, and yeah, don't let me be disrespectful to the Sixers or Bucks, because when healthy, yeah, they would have had a shot. And the Celtics have owned the Sixers, and healthy Giannis in the playoffs is a different beast. Tends to be. But, just the way this team plays as far as outside in with all the threes and the way they play together defensively, then you add Porzingis to that. That's a lot to ask of the Mavs. But really, I have much more thoughts, but really, I'll let you go here. But to me, what stuck out really, I mean, no one really played bad on the Mavs aside from Kyrie. Kyrie didn't have the greatest of games. Boston played how they do when Porzingis is healthy, which is everyone gets a healthy share of the ball. Your main 5 or 6 are all going to be either at double figures or around double figures. It's a matter who's going to lead you in scoring, really, and it doesn't matter. Yeah, Kyrie had 12, Luka had his 30 or around there, and their other guys did what they normally do. The bigs rebounded, maybe not to an elite level, but they did what they normally do. Lively didn't have the greatest game, but he's 19, coming off an injury, and it's his first finals appearance. But they absolutely need to win tonight. It seems like a must-win, even though, if they do go down 0-2, the Celtics did what they're supposed to some degree. But I'm going to let you go because I have much more thoughts off that.
Oh, absolutely. And I was going to say, Derek Jones hit a 3 the first 3 of the game and then really didn't do a whole lot. Kyrie was the notable guy who didn't really play well. The role players for the Mavs were they were okay. PJ Washington picked his spots. Daniel Gafford was okay. Derek Lively, as you just talked about, was okay. I think the biggest thing on the stat sheet, like if you're just looking box score, that kind of pops your eye on the Maverick side is Luka only had 1 assist. I believe their team only had they had
8 or 9 assists total,
or something like that. Yeah, it was they had 9 assists total. So when you're looking at that, that's exactly what Boston wants. You can deal with Luka getting 30 because Luka's gonna probably get 30 regardless of what you're gonna do. He's just gonna go get around 30. I mean, he averaged about 34 this season, so getting 30, you're doing a good job on him. 10 rebound, he's around the basket a lot, the bigger body, but if you can hold him to maybe not 1 assist, I mean, that's very uncharacteristic for Luka, but if you can hold him to sub 7 assists, that's saying that he's going one-on-one. They're not really getting ball movement, and the only way they're going to win in that case is if Kyrie's averaging or putting up 30 at least, because that means both of them are just hot. If you're going to be able to contain Kyrie and make Luka specific only one-on-one, not able to really dish to the guys, I know they were missing open shots, so that probably is subject to change too, but at the same time, you're playing the best to your ability against a very good Mavs offensive team, especially when you have an offensive guy like Luka. So I think defensively, Boston played very well, did what they needed to do. They stopped the very something that was pivotal in the last series, that pick and roll lob threat. They really didn't allow that to happen throughout the game. That was something that really beat the Timberwolves down throughout a lot of that series. They kind of stymied that, and you can do that when you have a 7'3" guy who is shifty and with good feet. You can stop those lobs. I was going to say he has better feet than Rudy Gobert just because he kind of slides better. But, I mean, you have nimble. And then also you have a veteran in Al Horford who, for some reason, I don't think he's aged since he's turned 30. He just has the same kind of game, body, style since he's been 30. So when you have that defensively, you're good. And then offensively, as you were saying, Kristaps Porzingis he just makes it a mismatch. Like, that's what going into the series, why I know a lot of people are going to be on the Mavs, and it's just like they're going to get a couple games, in my opinion, maybe only 1, but I still think I got Boston in 6 still. Could be 5. I'd be more shocked honestly, I'd be a little more shocked at this moment in time if all's healthy, if they went 7 than 5. Just because of how Boston matches up. That Porzingis is a problem. you can't put a smaller defender on him. He's just going to shoot over the top. You put a defender as tall as him, they probably can't move the same. He can pull up from 30. Plus, you have Derek White, you have Jaylen Brown, and obviously Kyrie didn't play well on the Mavs side. So you're like, okay, we have promise there. But also, Jason Tatum had 16, but he was inefficient. Like, Jason Tatum obviously can get you 50 in a game. He can get you 40. Clearly, he can average 30 for a series. He just averaged 30 in the conference finals. So, Jason Tatum, I liked the way he played. Thought he played with good patience and good pace. I think at times he was being a little careless with the ball, but I like that he wasn't trying to force everything, and he was allowing the offense to come as it was because Jaylen Brown started off hot early. Obviously, Porzingis off the bench early. Derek White was hitting threes for the majority of the game, and then Drew Holiday was just making his timely plays. But I think right now it's a little bit of a mismatch, but that's nothing new because I thought that going into the series.
Yeah, and you can really minimize it to Mavs didn't make threes. I think they had under 10 threes. Boston's going to live off the three. Mavericks.
And they didn't even kill it. I mean, they were 16 of 42, but they can get you 25 in a game. Mavs are 7 of 27, by the way, but go on.
Yeah, I mean, if you can ever say a team's not killing it, making 16 threes in a game, in the playoffs even, I mean, that tells you what kind of firepower Boston has, really. But, I mean, the Mavs were getting good shots. The Celtics, the Celtics, they cover the corner three well, and they defend the three well anyway. The Mavericks, they defend the rim better, which doesn't matter necessarily against Boston, who wants to just chuck threes and can get to the rim in general. Like, they're not going to be Tatum's nice around the rim. Brown wants to get to the rim. Porzingis is 7'3", as we've been saying. And Holiday and White, they got a size advantage against their guards. So, I mean, I'm really echoing what you're saying here. It's a tough matchup. It's just funny how things work out because, you mentioned how Porzingis takes away the lob threat. Gobert actually did that against the Nuggets. Like, that was a big key against the Nuggets when they have him on Aaron Gordon and not Jokic. And then you get to last round where we're all looking at how the T-Wolves played the Nuggets, how physical they were with the Nuggets. And we're like, well, all right, that's going to happen with the Mavs. Surely they got that. Surely this is an easier matchup after the Nuggets.
Mm-hmm.
And the physicalness didn't even matter. And it looked like they gassed out a little bit and they weren't ready to be there a little bit, whatever. And then, it's funny. We talked about this last time. People act like all of a sudden this Celtics team is, I don't know, James Harden mixed with the fucking Mike Tomlin Steelers.
Yeah,
like
I was about to say 2021 Embiid or Ben Simmons.
Yeah. That's a better one. The Sixers and Embiid. All of a sudden the Celtics are that. I'm waiting, especially if the Celtics win this game, to all of a sudden hear how great Boston is on both ends. Like I'm waiting for that heel turn. Not heel turn, but the turn. I
know what you exactly
got the UFC brain going on right now, but I'm just waiting for that turn because, we talk about the physicalness of the T-Wolves defense. The Celtics got the more versatile defense, especially with Porzingis. Yeah. They got the most versatile defense in the league. They can switch on everything. Again, they can defend the three well. It's a tough matchup for Dallas, they just seem one guy short anyway. Again, if Kyrie can do anything for him, which he has not played well against Boston in quite some time, they're just a tough matchup with the big defenders.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't know. That really is the key. If they can make threes, if they can get to 12 threes, if they can limit Boston, I mean, yes. I think the Mavs have been the second best defensive team next to Boston in the playoffs.
They've been one of the best defensive teams since the turn of the new year.
Yeah, they were, I believe, second in defense to either Boston or Minnesota since the break. So, I mean, look, if they can ugly it up, if the game can somehow go the way the quarters 2 through 4 went, and it's more defensive and it's a slow physical game, which can work against Boston, but I still think Boston can get more physical than Dallas. But if they can do that and slow it down, turn it to a 90s game and let Luka do him, get his scoring that way, and then take your threes where you can, if Kyrie's not performing well. That's the only way you can really do it. If Kyrie's performing well and opening up everything for the rest of the team, as well as Luka being aggressive, because, again, he's going to get his 30 anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But if they can both open up everything for everybody and play good enough defense, hey, then you do got yourself a 50-50 game. But it's a few ifs there. It's a few ifs. And again, Kyrie has not played well against them. I'm talking too much, so I'll let you respond.
No, you're good. I mean, to kind of go on further with your Kyrie point, going into the series too, we were talking about it, and I was like, with how well-rounded this Boston team is, it's got to look a little bit like 2016, and I use that just because you have the great player with Kyrie dynamic, and LeBron James obviously went nuts in those finals, clearly, especially games 5, 6, and 7. You're going to have to get that style of performance from Luka, the 35, 10, and 8 on every given night, which he's capable of for sure. But Kyrie was also going to have to join in with at least 25 plus a night to beat this Boston team, and an efficient 25 plus a night. He can't put up 30 shots to get 25. He's got to be at least 50% from the floor. But I was noticing in the game, Kyrie was getting to the basket. He was getting to his spots where traditionally throughout his career, he was able to make some of these layups, and they're not going. He just doesn't have the same exact quickness and the same level of lift, I'll say, as he once used to. He's just not the same player, not to an extreme extent. He's still very good, of course, but that little bit can make the difference between going up and finishing over someone like Tatum and leaving it just short. And a lot of the times, maybe it was just an off game, and maybe you'll see it, but you just saw off games less and less with Kyrie. Like, the layup package was always at 90%, regardless of how the shot was falling. The layup package always was 90% at least at the basket. And there are some games where now it's like, oh, he's not making them at the basket as much. And another night where he's probably feeling great. Like tonight, he might come out and have 35. Don't know. But I think you're going to need closer to historic performances from them to beat this Boston team because they're just so well-rounded. But we can move into what our thoughts on tonight's going to be more so. I can start off, or you can start, Kyle, wherever you'd like.
I mean, it's a continuation, really, of what we've been talking about. I mean, if Luka, I mean, like you just said with Kyrie, right? If Kyrie has a good game, that obviously gives them a chance. We just alluded to that, both of us, right? If he doesn't, if he's around like the 15 to 18 point range and you're not getting a ton explosively from him, then you do need a triple-double Luka performance where PJ and all these other guys
a bad shooting Boston performance.
At least. They need to at least be at 15 threes, right? I would think for the Mavericks, like you need to be, Luka's got to have at least 4 threes, and then your guys got to, like Kleber, PJ, Derrick Jones Jr., Hardy, he gave him 13 last time. Like if you can get a decent shooting performance from the rest of your team, it looks like your defense is at least good enough to hold up. Now, again, Boston's got 5 guys, 6 guys if you count Horford, who can just flat out just go and get it. Like it's not a lot for them to get their own shot. Even at Horford's old age, whoever his matchup is, he can either give you that one little 2-drive pull up, or he can post you up still. Boston can get it however they want, right? To Tatum's point, Keenan, you mentioned Tatum earlier and how he was like not forcing things. Thing about Tatum, like everyone's going to talk about him like he is in Embiid's class and Doncic's class and Jokic's class, which he's not. We've said like he's in between somewhere, like between the old guys like LeBron, Durant, and Curry, and maybe like right in between the elite guys, right? And SGA.
It's like him and Ant there right now.
Sure.
Like him and Ant chilling right there. Go on.
And the difference is you don't really need 25, 30 shots from Tatum to win, especially with this team with all that talent. He's at his best when he's playing complementary ball. If he's playing like elite defense, elite rebounding, doing some nice playmaking, like 5-6 assists, which he's capable of, which he's been doing all playoffs, that's where he's at his best. You don't want him playing necessarily like a Paul Pierce, to use a Celtics legend, who can really pound the rock and still get his own good shot. When Tatum's dribbling the ball for 18 seconds, we already know it's going to be a step back jumper, likely a step back 3.
You kind of want him to play a little more like Bird. Like if you're going to go on the Celtics front, like Bird could go get you 60. We know that. But Bird also was like, okay, Mikhail's got it tonight. Sure, I'm going to make the bet. I'm going to make the right play to Danny Ainge in the corner. Sure. Dennis Johnson, you can bring the ball up and whatever it is. Rest in peace, Bill Walton. If you've got obviously your option on the block there, talking the 86 team, then sure. But like that's kind of more so where you want to go rather than that Paul Pierce route, as you were mentioning, just to bring up kind of another Celtic comparison go on.
Yeah, no, I mean, as long as he's just decisive with the ball, like when he's got it from 15 to 18 feet in, just be decisive with it. 2, 3 dribbles, get to the rim, or get rid of it and spot up, one of the two. But that's where he's at his best, rather than just pounding the rock trying to get your shot like the Luka plays, where they need that from him. This team doesn't need him for that. You hear J Kidd talk about Jaylen Brown might be their best player. I think that's Jason Kidd trying to plant seeds in Boston, get a little divisiveness before game 2. Jason Kidd's a basketball genius, so he knows what he's doing.
He's played in that big game multiple times. He's been to the finals, I think, 3 times, won 1.
Something like that.
Yeah, I think he went to the Nets back-to-back, and then he went with the Mavericks in 11, I think, unless he did something else.
That's right. Yeah, I think they did play the Spurs there as well. Yeah. So yeah, and I mean Jaylen has been playing great, and he's been super decisive with the ball. He's at his best when he's just getting to the rim. But it could be Porzingis tonight. It could be Drew Holiday. It could be Derek White. It could be anybody for the Celtics, and that's why they're such a dangerous team. On top of how in sync they are defensively, so I'm looking exactly for what we said. You gotta get a fire in your belly type of game from Luka. I mean, low key to me, Keenan. Honestly, it's a legacy game for Luka and Kyrie here. I don't want to put too much pressure on it. I don't want to get too ESPN first take with it, but I mean, it kind of is, because if you get down 2-0, and this is the thing with everybody in the playoffs, or especially in the East, yeah, you can get down 2-0 and you got home court, but you don't want to be 2-0 against Boston. Then you're fighting for your life in game 3, because it's over if you lose game 3, obviously. So you'd rather go 1-1, and then, if Boston wins game 3 on the road, then so be it. At least you're 2-1 going into game 4, but they almost need this game because Boston could easily win in game 3. I mean, you just trust them there. The league would obviously, Dallas would get their whistle, but you don't want to be down 2-0. So Dallas needs to punch them in the mouth. I'm really looking for them to be physical. That's one thing Boston did. They were obviously geeked to go, and they each had a good break from last week to this week. They punched Dallas right in the mouth. Don't want to say Dallas wasn't ready, but that's Dallas's first time
they
there.
Didn't respond well.
Yeah, and really they kind of did if we look at quarters 2 through 4. But Boston definitely looked like the more physical team, the more ready team, which you'd expect because they've been there before. So they looked like the experienced finals team. So I'm looking for Dallas to match that energy from the jump, and I'm really looking for them to want to fight. They should be just like locked the fuck in tonight. So needless to say,
I think you're gonna game 5 Timberwolves. I think you're gonna need that Luka early, that killer, that the guy hunting
to at least set the tone.
Oh yeah, that goes because that was the more thing. The 21 points in the first quarter. That was super impressive, of course, because that's 20 points in a quarter. That's always going to be impressive. But it was more so just the way he was getting it and the look on his face when he was getting it. It was like, okay, this is whatever house you guys think this is, and this is my house now. Like I'm taking it over. This is where I reside, and I'm gonna stay here. And so in that, the rest of the guys are like, okay, if Luka's on that, then let's all go. And that's what he needs to bring out tonight, because you follow your leader, him or even Kyrie. Kyrie's clearly a leader of that team as well. But those two guys need to bring everything they have for this game tonight, because again, as I said, to really start off, beating Boston 4 in a row or beating Boston 4 out of 5 is extremely not likely at all. But going into, I will give my predictions on the game. I do think Boston wins this one tonight. I think it's going to be closer. I think the Mavericks will come out and maybe get themselves an 8-point lead early, but Kristaps Porzingis, Derek White, Drew Holiday will play well, and I think that this game, Jason Tatum is going to have closer to 30. And I think he's going to play a very good game, be aggressive. I think he's probably going to have a better second half than first half. I think in the first half, Boston's probably going to just stay close. And I think in the second half, we're really going to see the greatness of Jason Tatum, the best player on their team. But yeah, so I think I have Boston in a close one. I'll give a score towards the end, but I think I have Boston in a close one. And one thing I do want to mention, you were talking about it earlier. When Boston I think Boston's winning. So I'm going to say when Boston wins this game, people are then going to talk like, oh, man, well, of course Boston should be in this position. They were 64 wins this year, and they walked through the East, so they didn't even have to do anything really. They were rested up. They were fine. Kristaps Porzingis looks just as healthy as ever. They didn't even have to rush him back. He was able to sit 38 days, and I was like, wait a second, where was this when you predicted the Mavs to win a week ago? Like, what are we doing here? So I'm just completely prepared for that, because if the Boston wins, they're going to discredit it like the Warriors 2015 run. But that one was even more understandable because that Warriors team, they just kind of bursted on the scene. They hadn't really done much. And you were like, oh, all point guards were injured. Like, they were good, of course, but like we think the Cavs would have beat them. And then obviously they came back with a 73-win team to show that they were for real. I just think that this Boston team's going to get discredited if they win the championship. And then it's still going to be like, Jason Tatum will still be in limbo of like, is Jaylen Brown just as good as Jason Tatum? Is Jason Tatum really one of those guys? And then we're just gonna be like, he's the best player on a championship team. He's capable of that, but is he really one of those guys? I just think that people are gonna discredit and hate on Boston even with a win. Even if they were to sweep the Mavericks, they'd just be like, well, they were supposed to, even though they predicted them to lose. Like, it's 50-50. I looked everywhere. Like, 50-50 on, like, experts. Half of them picked the Mavs. Half of them picked the Celtics. I know the Celtics were favored going into the series, the betting-wise, but, like, all your experts and your TV personalities and all that stuff, it was leaning more Mavericks than Boston. So I just don't want to hear that Boston was supposed to win kind of thing.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you. Like I said, I'm waiting for the turn, and I think once I get up 2-0, we will get it. I really do think, like, if you would have asked me, I mean, I actually have a bet in that it's going to be a series score of 2-1 Boston after Game 3. So I do expect the Mavericks to win Game 3. Before I go on, though,
Yeah,
actually.
I actually do too. I have Boston 2 and then Mavericks 3, and let me see how those two games really play out. I think it's 2-1 going into Game 4 Boston, regardless of even if the Mavs win, but go on.
I was going to say, give us a score. I want to hear a score.
Okay, score-wise, I think it's going to be... Last time I had 102-92. I think this one's going to be in the same-ish vein. Probably 100-96-ish, Boston, rather. 100-96, roughly. That would be my final score, but yeah.
That's been my problem with this series so far. And it's not really a problem, but it's interesting to me because we've said both of these teams are elite offensively and defensively, especially if you're just measuring since the All-Star break, right?
Yeah.
The over-unders, it's been around 214. I think last night it was 214.5. Last game ended up going all the way up to 218, I believe, 217 maybe. And it went way under, obviously, as we know. My question is to you, Keenan. Yeah. I know you already made your pick, but if this were a high-scoring game, if this was a game, let's say it's either way, it doesn't matter the final. It doesn't matter who wins this, but let's say either way, it was 114-108 or something like that, or 114-110. Who do you think wins that game? Boston. That was the final score. I think Boston wins that game.
I think Boston wins that game because I think it's a 50-50, but I'd lean Boston because if the Mavs are getting close to 110, that means Kyrie and Luka are probably having very good games and they're hitting their threes, and that makes them extremely tough to beat. But also, if Boston's up in there, that means they've probably hit close to 23s, and they're almost unbeatable when they shoot. I think when they're like 40-1 when they shoot over 40% from three this year, so like they're kind of unbeatable when they're shooting three. So I'd lean Boston, even though I think it'd be kind of a 50-50 toss-up.
All right, next question is, so if the game's 92-88, who do you favor there?
Again, I would probably say Boston because I would expect them to get a stop. Because when it comes down to it, you have on the Mavericks, I trust two people to create, and I'll trust PJ Washington to hit a big three. PJ Washington has been hitting big threes all playoffs, so I can give him credit for hitting corner threes. Like, I believe he could hit one. There's not a player that would be playing in a final lineup for Boston that I don't feel could not take and make a big shot. Al Horford, Porzingis, Jason Tatum, Drew Holiday, Derek White, Jaylen Brown. We've seen all of them do it. So That's
I agree. It's very interesting to me, Keenan, that you said you looked up and you saw like it's literally 50-50 everywhere with the Mavericks and Celtics. Um, I don't know, man. I mean, this Celtics team,
It's
like
really
we both
good.
said, we've already said it. Like it's more likely this ends in 5 than 7. I would be shocked if it went 7. I picked
Right now,
6.
I truly would be.
I picked 6 because really, I think we would have the same reason. You expect Luka and Kyrie to at least give you 2 explosive games, and then the Mavs can kind of match their 3-point energy and be physical
Yep.
on defense. Like we've seen that. I do want to say, Keenan, you said this probably about 10 minutes ago, but you were alluding to Boston's path with the injuries and stuff. Let's
Mhm.
not forget, Mavs got here too because Kawhi didn't play in the first round,
Yep.
right? Second round, third round, all is even, cool, but no Kawhi. That's a big deal. I mean, we all think still Kawhi can be top 10 when he's healthy, right?
Yep.
Maybe top 5 when he's healthy, and
He can
no,
play with
Boston,
your best player.
yeah,
On any given night.
exactly. And Boston, as we know, was without Porzingis. And yeah, I said this team's deep enough to survive without Porzingis. This ain't a Kevin Durant, Steph Curry, 73-9 Warrior situation. This is Brad Stevens, who worked 2 trades out to get Porzingis and still got him. And then on top of that, Milwaukee was more than ready to give up Drew Holiday for Dame. So Boston orchestrated that too. So you got to give props here. I mean, this team has Brad Stevens' fingerprints all over it. Joe Mazzulla has improved quite a bit. Like he's actually kind of looking like a young Brad Stevens as far as how he treats his team defensively and how the rotations are. Maybe Stevens is a much better play caller and play designer, but Stevens is a genius for real. Like he's a true genius. But I mean, just this team construction. One thing I want to give Mazzulla credit for, I think even something as simple as like if KP was in the starting lineup and you had Horford coming off the bench, I think that would almost be better for Dallas if you had
Yeah.
the 5 most talented guys starting off this game. The fact that you got KP coming off with just Pritchard and Hauser, they're just going strictly 8 right now. They're going strictly 8, and Hauser's and Pritchard's 2 jobs or 1 job is just to shoot and play defense on the other end, really. So you got Porzingis who can create shots coming in with those 2 or with one of them at a time, and then you're sprinkling in any one of Jalen, Jason, Drew Holiday, and Derek White and Horford on top of that. That's tough to beat for anybody.
They don't have a singular player who's going to touch the floor for more than 5 minutes in a game in this series who can't make 40% of their threes.
Exactly.
And then they have defensive play. They have 3 guys who are 6'10" or above who can switch onto bigs. And Jason Tatum, Al Horford, and Porzingis, of course. So
and
they have no holes. To beat this team, you need to have a team that matches it. And there's not really. I thought the Nuggets could match because of the fact of how great Jokic is and they could control the pace of a game more. Obviously, Luka can control the pace of a game for sure. But, like, we've seen KCP hit big shots already. We didn't know about PJ Washington, Derek Jones Jr. I know Derek Jones Jr. has played in some big games being on the Heat teams in 2020 and things, but, like, we didn't know as much with him. He didn't play this kind of featured role as much. We know Michael Porter Jr., we've seen him take and make big shots. Obviously, Jamal Murray is a killer. Obviously, Jokic, and then Aaron Gordon plays his role really well. So I thought with those 5, you had Christian Brown, and then Reggie Jackson has been playing big playoff games as well. I thought that 7 was going to be able to kind of compete with what Boston does, like size-wise, and then kind of almost not neutralize, but be able to match Boston in all the assets. I just, like, with the guard play being the predominant thing on the Mavs, it's hard to match the bigs, and then the bigs can match more so, can switch on guards and things like that, as we've talked about, of course. But there's not a team right now that can really match up with this team, and that's just the problem. Like the Timberwolves would have had a better chance matchup wise, in my opinion, just because of the way they're sized and but even then, they could
have defended better.
But I think they're a little slower. So, like, I think that Boston still would have gotten what they wanted to do. But like Alexander Walker's a little bigger. Anthony Edwards is a little bigger. Obviously, Gobert has size to him. Karl Anthony Towns can stretch the floor. He's kind of like Al Horford in the sense of can be inside, but obviously stretch the floor. But again, And the series clearly isn't over. It's 1-0. Like, it's not like the series is even over. Like, Dallas could win the next 4, and we could be looking as stupid as possible. I mean, I don't predict that, of course, but, like, Dallas could win the next 4 and just Boston goes cold. Tatum doesn't play well. Luka does Luka things. Kyrie goes off vintage Kyrie, and we would just look stupid. But I don't think that's going to happen, so that's my thoughts.
I have a few responses to that.
Yeah.
Quite a few responses because we went all over there kind of.
I'm sorry.
no, it's good. I just so one being this is why I was so adamant. If you listen to the last 2.5 years of this podcast and just listen to anything Celtics related, you'd probably think I hate the Celtics with how tough I am on them. Like I haven't had too many kind things to say about them. And even I think it was March, me and you got in a big debate. This is a typical Warner Brothas debate. It was a simple debate. It was about whether Nuggets and Celtics would go 6 or 7. And I was defending the Celtics vehemently that they would go 7 because of this reason right here, because of how versatile they are defensively, because of how deep they are.
I just want to note that this was without either Porzingis or without Jaylen Brown, not a full Celtics roster.
But we were talking about a full Celtics roster.
I said that I thought it would be 6, but they could go 7.
Right.
But
I was saying it would definitely be 7 because of this
That's
reason.
what I was saying. But yeah, okay. But yeah, we don't need to hash that thing again.
No, yeah. And I was saying, I was just saying this is the reason why I thought it would go 7, because I just think they just would cause so many matchup problems and really the shot creation. And that's really what got Denver. Jamal Murray was hurt. Again, if Porter Jr. plays just normal, Nuggets very well could have just won one of those other games or the game 7. But I mean, that's
if they just didn't go cold in
the
game 7, they probably should have just won it all.
I really do. That's the weird thing about it, Keenan. I really do think if they get any other team in the West other than the Nuggets, I probably would have picked the Celtics. I picked the Celtics before the postseason anyway. But I think I told you before last episode, if this ended up being Nuggets Celtics, I think I would have flipped. I think I would have flipped to the Nuggets. We haven't seen the low IQ stuff from Boston. It's happening less and less. But, God, you went all over. Where else did you go? You brought it back to – there's a few other responses I wanted there. Where else did you go? There was that. There was the versatility. There was –
oh, man.
Well, you said – oh, that's the other thing I wanted to say about the Nuggets. I saw this. This was funny. They had I don't know if it was MPJ's birthday the other day or if I think they just released something on Twitter just appreciating him for some reason. They're like, what a great season for Michael Porter Jr. And they posted like his season highlights. And the best part of it was it said averaged a career high in assists to 1.5. Like they just leave that off the graphic. Like I swear they just did that for us to laugh at, which is good. But,
there is no need. I don't care.
Like, he averaged an assist and a half. But Keenan, you made a great point. I don't see this happening, but you said at the end, you go, hey, it's been one game. Dallas could, win the next 4 games or just somehow win the series for all we know. When you said that, Keenan, this reminds me of 2011 Heat Mavericks, because after game 1, it fell over. It was a similar game where the Heat kind of just ran away with it. And
after game third quarter of game 2, you're like, LeBron's punching Wade after that 3-pointer in the corner.
Mid fourth quarter of game 2.
Yeah, mid fourth quarter.
Series flipped right there. Series flipped. If Miami just continues and wins that game, could have been a sweep. It looked like a sweep.
Could have been a 3-peat.
That's kind of how this feels. Obviously, this Mavs team has a bit more offensive talent. Actually, it's kind of close the more I think about it. But, this team has a little more just talent, I guess. But that's the thing. That's why I'm struggling. I still haven't given my pick, Keenan, and it's because, if you put a gun to my head, I would say the Celtics. I agree with you. I think the Celtics just win tonight. But also, Luka could just go for 50. Like, not many players have that ability to just on a whim go for 50.
He still hasn't had that game yet. Like, he's played phenomenal games, but, like, there hasn't, and, like, that quarter from Luka, and, like, I remember, but, like, he had 36 at the end of the game. There was a Clippers, I think, game 4 when he hit the step back game winner against them when they're in the bubble, where you're like, oh my, that was just a Luka extravagant. He hasn't had that game this playoffs, and you just feel it. He's played phenomenal, like throughout since, but like I just feel like it could happen at this stage.
He hasn't had a 40-point game this postseason, right?
No, that's my point. He hasn't had that game yet. And he
He's
is
due for
always capable of that game. So, like,
He-
at any point, he could go snatch one.
He's due for it. We've been talking about the physicality and all that, and the referees. The referees let them flat out like just it was playground. Like they were letting them play like they were just letting them foul. It was super physical on both ends. So if it is a 90s or 2000s game like that, Luka's still built for that. He can still get his 40 that way too. So I agree with you. I think he's got to be super aggressive. I think he will be super aggressive. Don't get me wrong. This Boston team, they gave him problems last time. They gave him problems last game. So, Keenan, I would actually like to see them. This would be interesting. I don't know if Kid would ever go to this, but maybe have Kyrie bring the ball up and post Luka up. Treat him like Tatum, get him started 18 feet and in. That way he doesn't got to work the entire court just to get to the rim.
I think
that would be an interesting dynamic.
I think it's also always the thing that you should do with a lot of stars, like with your best players. I think they work. Luka's obviously different because he's a real big control guy, but like we even saw it with LeBron, like when Wade or Chalmers would bring the ball up the floor, and you would see LeBron or Kyrie even bring the ball up the floor, and you could get LeBron in his spots. Obviously, we know that kind of helped unlock Mike when he was able to kind of obviously the triangle offense, but he didn't have to bring the ball up. It was either Ron Harper or Pippen or BJ Armstrong, whoever, but you're able to get Mike 18, 20 feet out where he only had to make 2 moves to his pull up or get to the basket quickly. Like when you make almost half the decision for the great players, so they just go instantly and like they don't even think about it, it almost takes them up a notch. But obviously there are times where you're like, okay, go control the whole game. And then there are other times where it's like, we can help you out. Like, let's give you that energy to do such a thing.
For sure. And look, I'll give my pick. I don't really have no idea. It really could go either way as far as an offensive battle or a defensive battle. I'll go right in the middle. I'll give it 105 Celtics, 98 Mavs.
Okay. So
I'm low key hoping for a Mavs win. That way we can get 1-1 going back to Dallas, and it could happen. Look, Boston, here's one thing that has happened all season with Boston and will happen with any team that lives and dies by the 3. Boston could just go cold. They could have an 8-3 night.
Mm-hmm.
And if that's the case, Mavs could play just about any game they wanted outside of Luka having a bad game and still win. So, yeah, I mean, they very well could, if they switch up the defense, Kid's going to do something. I'm very interested to see the adjustments. Again, it's only one game. This is a big overreaction. I don't want to write Dallas off here. But again, if Dallas goes down 2-0, you can damn near just give the Larry O'Brien to the Celtics. It just seems that way. But
yeah, they just don't feel like the team that could win 4 in a row. And this Boston team, especially because this isn't their first finals, just doesn't feel like a team that's going to lose 4 in a row. Like you'd have to, it would cause for like Luka would have to average. He'd have to go Wade in 06. And then he'd have to get still Kyrie to come along with Kyrie in 2016. Like it would have to do something like that, like where they go berserk for 4 games or Boston just all of them ice cold for 4 games for them to come back or something. So I think for the Mavs, this is a must win. Absolutely a must win. They lose this game. To me, I don't think you're winning twice in Boston. And I don't think you're sweeping the next 4. So you would have to go 7 at that point. And game 7 in Boston, if it got to that point, then all bets are off. But man, they lose tonight. It's tough. It's tough.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I don't want to sound like I'm repeating myself here, but if the threes are falling for Boston, you really do, regardless if they do or don't, you need a aggressive performance from Kyrie Irving in some degree.
Yes.
You need some sort of confidence. And if you lose this game, you need some sort of confidence in a certain matchup, whether it be defensively or offensively, some sort of advantage you can identify going into game 3. That's what you're thinking if you're a Dallas fan or if you're the Mavericks in general. And again, match their physicality, go out to punch, go out like you're going to fight tonight if you're the Mavericks. That's what I would be looking for if I'm rooting for them or if I'm rooting for Boston and they were in the situation. I'm looking for them to just want to take the Celtics head off. Like, no smiling, no games. We're in the finals. It's game 2. Like you said, it seems like a must win. This team's so talented. It's a game earlier than it normally would be. Your must wins normally in game 3 down 2-0. When a team's this talented, you can't even let it get that far. So yeah, Luka's got to be on his. I call him Luka Jeffrey Jordan. He's got to be on his Luka Jeffrey Jordan tonight. He's got to be. He's got to be in the 35 to 45 to 50 range tonight.
It's gonna be like game
right?
3 versus Phoenix. I think he had 55 in the finals in '93. I think Mike was.
So hey,
he's got to be on something like that. It's game
We'll see.
6, 98 Jazz performance.
What else you got though? You got any random? Anything? I want to say I ran into Tim the other day. Shouts to Tim Gray. We had a mini NFL podcast. Just saw him at the store. He was actually at work driving through because he what does he do? He does like
he delivers now, I think.
it delivers soda and stuff like that, right? And like beer, I think. So he happened to catch me at the right store, and then we got into like just NFL offseason mini pod right there. So I've been thinking about the NFL quite a bit this week. I cannot wait. I think we're 90 days or less away, roughly, from the beginning of the season. So I can't wait. For whatever reason, it feels like the NFL is like starting next month. There's a lot of WNBA buzz. I'm both.
Obviously, Caitlin Clark getting left off the USA team, which I don't think is as bad as other people do, but
yeah, it's this Caitlin Clark thing is crazy to me. Again, I kind of said this when she was at college with the UConn game.
Yeah,
how like, oh, we're here now. Like the women's game is officially here because I've never seen anybody react like that to a controversial call with that moving screen. And you see Caitlin sell out the Wizards arena the other night.
She sold that ever. She's
2-3 win teams, and they had, I think, the highest WNBA attendance ever. So there's no question.
Together they were, I think, 2-20 because the Mystics hadn't won a game all season, and going into that game, the Fever. I think the Fever were 2-10, and then the Mystics were like 0-9 or 0-10. It was something like that. They're like 2-18 to 2-20 going into that game, and they're selling it out.
Even worse than I thought. So yeah, there's no questioning her star appeal. Just some of the shit that's been going on, just some of the conversation that's been going on around her and her treatment from the other players. It's ridiculous. People have brought out clips of like how veterans were treating rookies like Candace Parker when she came in. It was the same. Like that's the thing about the WNBA.
Candace just won MVP that year and just did her thing.
she did win. She did win MVP,
which is crazy. Rookie of the year and MVP. I think like only happened twice ever. Like her and then like Kareem. I think the only other 2 players. It's insane.
Yeah, I mean, this Caitlin Clark thing, this conversation, it's extremely early on in their season. I think it's been about a month, if not 3 weeks, and there's been just almost LeBron, Russell Westbrook level of just polarization of Caitlin Clark. And if this is going to be her whole career, which I don't think it will be, I honestly think, first of all, I think the Olympic break will be good for her. She's been playing nonstop. She went straight from the national championship game to the WNBA, basically, like within a month.
They played 11 games in 20 days.
Yeah,
to start the season.
And they're clearly trying to get her out in front, which is good. Like I don't even know who the WNBA commissioner is, and I think she's doing okay.
Kathy Eckelbert is her name.
Right. Like I've never seen this woman in my life, but it seems like she's doing an okay job. Like the games do seem to be scattered, and it does seem like the Fever are playing much more than every other team. But I will say, to the Team USA thing again, that break will be good for her when she's got the month off and she can come back fresh for the second half of the season. I think that benefits her. I don't know. I just think a lot of the discourse is kind of disgusting. And you see her at a press conference and all this. She's like completely even keel. She's just like, yeah, whatever. It's about the game. Like, I'm not playing well. If vets are doing that to me, like, yeah, it's basketball. That's going to happen. Like, she's so level-headed and doesn't really mix in with the bullshit. That's refreshing to see because she's not playing into it at all. And I love Angel Reese. Like, I've become a fan of Angel Reese, but it seemed kind of she's not wrong when she says, like, people are coming over to the women's game because of Me Too. She's right about that. But she's not right if she's thinking she's the same draw as Caitlin Clark, because she does not have that star power. I have not seen this star power from anybody in the women's game ever, really.
No, there's
and
not,
that's-
and there's not.
And that's not a knock to anybody. It's not a knock to Angel Reese. It's not a knock to Candace Parker, Diana Taurasi. It's not a knock to any of them. But hey, Caitlin's got to back it up. She's got to have more games like that 30.73 performance, right? Which I think she will.
So Kyle, I mean, just to kind of tie it all together and then give my thoughts on that USA thing. Biggest draw over the last 12 years in the NBA has been who? Obviously, LeBron's the face, but biggest draw is
still LeBron.
Guy took the LeBron, and then next would be
I guess Curry, right?
Steph. I'm saying Steph because obviously changed the way the game is played. People love shooting threes, and now Caitlin Clark. If you watch just the highlights from that 30-point game, she lost the ball. Her first three, she lost the ball at the top of the key, close to the end of the shot clock, right to left crossover, and pulls from 32 and hits it. That's entertaining. I don't care if it's in a high school game. That's just entertaining basketball to see shooting from like she's putting people on skates and shooting from like 35 out.
She had a nasty step back.
Yeah, the behind the back, and then the one in the corner where she like did a step back and then looked at the crowd like I'm really hurt because she is. I was on this game because I actually bet on it and I won money from it because the second they lost to the Liberty on Sunday, I was like, she's going for 30 on Friday because it was a 5-day break and they were playing the Mystics. Like she had a break for the first time in the year and she was going to be able to breathe. Once she gets these breaks and you actually see by end of June, we're going to start to see more of this from Caitlin Clark. And then when they come back from the break, we're going to start seeing this. She's going to see every team already. She knows how people are defending her. She understands the game more at the WNBA level. Plus, she's great, and she'll have some rest. So, one, there's that. Two, she's not one of the 12 best players in the league right now. So, and that's fine.
There's better guards than her. That's why.
That's fine. Like, I'm going to read off this USA team real quick. Nafisa Collier, going to probably be top 5 for MVP. Kalia Copper just did something. She had back-to-back 35-point games. She's a guard. That hadn't been done. That's only been done twice ever in the WNBA, which is kind of crazy. Chelsea Gray, champion. Brittany Griner, obviously 6'8" and a big. Sabrina Ionescu, obviously one of the greatest, probably the greatest three-point shooter in the game right now. Obviously, Caitlin Clark's going to eclipse that, but, when you do what you did, and we just saw her shoot with the men, and shoot at the same level as everyone not named Steph Curry. Jewel Lloyd, multiple-time All-Star. Kelsey Plum, 2-time champion. Also held the scoring record until Caitlin broke it. Brianna Stewart, MVP. Diana Taurasi, arguably the greatest player ever. Alyssa Thomas, second in MVP last year. Asia Wilson, best player in the league unanimously. And Jackie Young, one of the best players in the league. She's not better than anybody on that roster, and it's fine. Like, you would have to either take off Kelsey Plum, but Kelsey Plum, one, is used to the WNBA more. She's a better player than Caitlin Clark is right now. And so it's fine. She'll be on in 4 years. We'll see her, and she's going to be amazing. She's going to be headlining it. But now, let her be. She's a rookie. It's fine. It's okay. It's not like they omitted her for someone like just random. It's not like Kennedy Carter. Shout out to her. I know she's really good off the bench, but it's not like it's Kennedy Carter on the team.
Or even like
Candace
Parker. Candace Parker getting cut last time off the Olympic squad. That was surprising.
Yeah. And that was the year before she won a champ. That was the year before she won the championship as the best player on her team. She didn't win Finals MVP. I think that actually was Kalia Copper, but she clearly led that team to a championship. So
yeah, Gino was ruthless, but I agree. I'm both surprised and not surprised she's on the team. When they threw her in the pool, like right around the end of the college season for the team, I kind of thought that meant that she would get that last spot because I think they had 11 spots decided at that point, or it seemed like they had 10 or 11 spots. So
I was hopeful she was going to make it because I was super hopeful that these 5-on-5 like runs, just like how the 1992 Dream Team had, like those runs. I wanted Taurasi against Caitlin and her squad. That's what I wanted. I just wanted it for those runs. I was so excited for that. But like, obviously, she's not better than anyone on that list. So it's fine. She's not better than anyone. I know people are going to say she's not better than anyone. So
And
it's fine.
that's the difference with the WNBA dream teams, or not dream teams, Olympic teams compared to the NBA. The NBA, you'll often get, when it's a year like this year where you do have LeBron and Steph, because I would say the last 2 or 3 Olympic teams, I have to look, haven't been the NBA's best necessarily that they're sending.
No.
But when
Steph
it is
after
like
16 wasn't on the Rio one because people were like the water in Brazil and things like that. So
yeah,
that was,
so like
that was a weird thing.
the 2012 team is probably the closest that resembles this team as far as star power.
Mhm.
Like I said, in a few Olympics, but fuck was I going with this? Oh, point being that usually you'd get like the top 6 NBA players probably, and then the rest are like somewhere within the top 20, 25. And it's more trying to fit the team together as far as defensive players. Like you see it with this one. Drew Holiday's on the team. I don't know if he's a top 30 NBA player. He's probably a top 50 NBA player. But then you got LeBron, Steph. Kawhi was supposed to be there. I doubt he will be. But you have a lot of star power with Durant,
Embiid,
all those guys.
and AD.
Whereas the WNBA, it often looks like your top 12 WNBA players are on the roster. Like, their rosters always look completely overpowering to the rest of the world to me. I cannot wait for the basketball tournaments on both ends this Olympics. It's going to be great to watch.
Yes.
But no, I agree with you. I mean, if Caitlin Clark would have made the team, it would have made sense to me. And if she didn't make the team, it made sense to me. When I saw she was left off, I wasn't entirely surprised. Like I said, a little bit just because they threw her into the pool and it seemed like they wanted her on the team. But they left her off, and it's not going to make a ton of a difference. Your 12th girl ain't really playing that much. Caitlin would have got probably the least playing time on this team, if I had to guess.
The only person that would have made, there's 2 people. I mean, Brittany Griner, just because she's been in and out of it, would be the only one that you could kind of be like, yeah, but then again, she's a 6'8" monster. Yeah. So, her ability is already better than Caitlin's ability, because it's not like Caitlin can shoot clearly very well. You've already got Sabrina. You've got Diana Taurasi. She can pass really well. Okay, you've got Kelsey Plum. Got someone like Jackie Young. You've got Chelsea Gray who can run the show. Their starting 5 this year will probably be Chelsea Gray, Brianna Stewart, Asia Wilson. I would say Sabrina maybe, and then I don't even know who the 5th, probably Nafisa Collier or Alyssa Thomas maybe. But whatever they're starting, as long as Caitlin Clark's an all-star, it's fine. Caitlin Clark's going to be an all-star year one. It's if she wasn't on an all-star team, then she's snubbed. She's one of the best 25 players in the league. She's not one of the best 12. It's fine. But that's all I have. That's it. Celtics win game 2.
She's gonna be an all-star via the fan vote.
She'll be an all-star via the fan vote, and she'll be an all-star regardless. Statistically, she'd be an all-star this year anyway.
Isn't she only averaging 11 a game though right now?
No, she's averaging 18.
Okay.
I was gonna say she right now. I can give you the stats. She is
I don't know why I was
13th in the lead in scoring. Because early on she's right now averaging 17 points, 5 rebounds, and 6 assists. She's 13th in scoring right now. So I think she's top 10 in assists at least. She is top 4 in assists right now. So, I mean, she's 13th in scoring, 4th in assists. She'll be an all-star this year. And that's deservingly so. That's not even her name. Take the Caitlin Clark name and put some random, Abby Collier, and she would still be an all-star this year because she's just playing well. And then Caitlin Clark, you add her, obviously. Hopefully she does a 3-point contest. I actually don't know how she'll do in the 3-point contest, to be quite honest with you, because she doesn't have a quick shot. She does, but, the way she shoots is not exactly the 3-point form. But again, she's she's Caitlin Clark, so she's going to be just fine. But, yeah, that's all I have.
Yeah, I don't have much to add. I would love to keep going. I've been going on some random NBA and NFL. I don't want to say deep dives, but I've had some thoughts. I got to do a little more research on the top 10 exciting athletes in my lifetime and such, but you know, we'll get to that.
Oh, I was talking, actually, last thing I'll say real quick. I was talking to my friends at work. Shout out Matt Lawson. Shout out Clayton Cross. And there was one more I was with, I think. But I think it was just those two, and then Mitchell. I'll shout out Mitchell as well. They're a little upset, especially Matt Lawson. A little upset that we didn't have T-Mac on our list. A little upset we didn't have T-Mac.
Hey,
I was gonna say he was in our consideration, but like Matt Lawson for sure was like, we didn't have T-Mac on the list. But yeah, so I just wanted to shout out that. But that's the beautiful thing with it is someone could have. I mean, I think some are universal. Like I think on a lot of lists you'll see LeBron, but like someone could have a completely different 10 of what excites them. So that's the cool thing about it.
Yeah, I mean, I gotta say I'm most upset with myself for leaving Allen Iverson off because he's my second favorite player of all time, and like I had a lot of people who played like I had Kobe on the list, right? I have more vivid memories of Kobe because Kobe played into the 2010s.
Yeah,
but I still remember Iverson. Like I can still picture him on the Nuggets. Like I have more recollection of him on the Nuggets, and I just remember like the feeling he evoked watching him play. Like he was just an exciting.
He was box office.
What's up?
I said he was box office.
Yeah, I mean, he was just tough as nails. He was just a lot of the stuff MJ brought, AI brought as a 6-foot guy, as someone who looked like he shouldn't have been dominating the court and still could. So, yeah, I regret leaving Allen Iverson off. All right, that's all we got for today. You will see us before Game 3. A lot of fun. Keen, what was your score again?
100-96 Boston.
And I had what? 105-98?
Yeah.
So we're in the same vein. We see this going the same way. Low-key rooting for the Mavs. I would like 1-1 going to Dallas. I don't see it happening, though, right now. But, hey, never know. That's why they're here. The coaches should make adjustments. Jason Kidd should make adjustments. They still have Luka, Jeffrey Jordan. They still have Kyrie on the other side. And they still got snipers who can, shoot the three. But, hey, you got to match Boston's toughness. You got to match their energy. That being said, this was the Warner Brothas Podcast. This is a lot of fun. I'm Kyle. That was Keenan. Catch us on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, wherever else you find the Warner Brothas Podcast. Shouts to WBP right here, the logo, blah, blah,
Absolutely.
blah. We're out of here. Keenan, good talking to you.
She makes me feel like a man.